The first 240Hz monitor that I had the chance to review was the AOC AG251FZ, and mighty impressive it was too. However, it wasn't the first 240Hz display to be available. That honour goes to the Asus ROG Swift PG258Q, a monitor that I finally got my hands on. It uses the exact same panel as the AOC, which is a 25-inch 1080p TN model made by AU Optronics. It combines this with a slim bezel design, and instead of FreeSync you get G-Sync. What's more, this monitor also has an ultra-low motion blur mode that flickers the backlight on and off. All told, it should be the ultimate monitor for elite competitive gamers that use an Nvidia graphics card. But does it deliver? Well, first impressions are mostly good. The slim and low profile bezel immediately makes this feel like a more premium monitor than most. This is also true of the overall attention to detail of the design. Where with some gaming monitors the design extras can feel a bit tacked on, here the whole design feels cohesive. The highlight is the all-metal base that stands up on its tiptoes. It gives the whole thing a real sense of lightness. However, for all that the design is cohesive, it may not be a look that appeals to everyone. The copper highlights and the circuit board pattern on the back aren't exactly neutral, so it may be difficult to fit this monitor into the look of the rest of your gaming system or room decor. And then there's the downward firing red light. By default, this shines an Asus ROG logo onto your desk, which quite frankly isn't something I, and I suspect many other people, are interested in. However, no doubt following feedback from some buyers of the PG258Q, Asus has made the light's cover on this model removable so you can add in your own logo instead, making it a far more tempting feature to leave turned on. Moving on to more practical considerations, Asus has fully decked out this monitor with all the standard adjustments you'd expect, so you can change its height and tilt angle, rotate it on its base and tip it into portrait mode. The latter makes it easier to plug in your cables if nothing else, but otherwise that's about the only thing I can praise this monitor for when it comes to connectivity. That's because, being a G-Sync display, it's limited to just two inputs, one DisplayPort and one HDMI. Not a problem if you're just using it for one PC, but it limits the potential of this monitor as a display for a multimedia hub. You do also get some USB 3 ports, but there are only two of them, and along with the rest of the connectivity, they're hidden behind a plastic panel and oriented at an odd angle. Fine if you're leaving a mouse and keyboard plugged in permanently, but not good if you want to just plug in a USB stick. There's also a headphone jack which can be used to hear any audio coming in over the two video connections. However, there are no speakers. So not a perfect showing so far, but one thing Asus always seems to get right is its on-screen display controls. The little joystick makes navigation really intuitive and the menus respond nice and quickly. You also get loads of options, in fact arguably too many. The mass of gaming presets is actually rather confusing, especially as the default one is racing, as though people will be buying a 240Hz gaming monitor for racing games. Nonetheless, right out of the box this is a very nice looking display. Just as with the AOC AG251FZ, Asus has clearly made the effort with ensuring such a premium display comes out the factory looking as it should. From its accurate colour temperature to its high contrast and dazzling maximum brightness, this display impresses on every front. What's more, quality hardly changes moving from 60Hz to 240Hz. The display is also reasonably uniform and viewing angles are a touch better than many TN panels. The AOC maybe just sneaks it for overall subjective image quality, but it's close enough that it could easily be down to natural variance in the panels. Does that make it good enough for content creation? Not really. The step up to an IPS panel is still clear, but there's far less of a compromise here than with many other gaming displays. Moreover, compromise isn't a word that applies when it comes to gaming. This monitor is simply fantastic. The step up from 144Hz to 240Hz is clearly noticeable, both using more synthetic tests and when gaming. It's definitely more subtle than the jump from 60Hz to 144, but any truly competitive gamer will feel it straight away. Of course, practice and skill will always trump technology, but for that final last little advantage, 240Hz does feel like it delivers. As for the ultra-low motion blur, well that's where the really high brightness of this monitor comes into its own, as normally these backlight flickering technologies can reduce brightness to a level that's too low. Here though you still get a plenty bright enough picture. Unfortunately, ultra-low motion blur only works at up to 144Hz, which you could argue defeats the object of having it. But for some games 144Hz with blur reduction may prove more advantageous than 240Hz without, so at least you've got the option. Either way, G-Sync works flawlessly all the way up to 240Hz, making for a fantastic looking stutter-free image. So in the end, this is a great gaming monitor. If you're an Nvidia graphics card user who focuses mainly on competitive FPS, then it's absolutely worth considering. The only problem really is price. Costing around £520 or $600 US, it's incredibly expensive for what is still a 1080p TN gaming monitor. As such, it's hard to give it a full glowing recommendation, especially as there are a few issues with the design and connectivity, and the AOC AG251FZ can be had for around £100 less, yet it comes with a few extra features. But for Nvidia gamers, if you simply must have the ultimate gaming monitor, then the PG258Q is well worth a look.